My name is Lena Riemer. I'm an assistant professor at Central European University in Vienna. I mainly teach courses related to human rights, anything from the inter-American human rights system to environmental and climate justice, with a special focus also on migration and refugee law. I teach gender and migration and the classic refugee and migration law in international contexts. I'm very lucky that I get to teach what I also research at Central European University. And my main focus for many years has been the rights of migrants and asylum seekers, especially in the border contexts. So in my PhD, I looked at a fundamental principle of international refugee and migration law, the prohibition of collective expulsion, which guarantees due process for anyone who's being expelled from a territory or anyone who's being pushed back at the border. More recently, I extended my research also to recent deportation policies. For example, I looked at what's been going on in the United States with regards to deportations, expulsions of non-citizens to third states in which they never set foot in. And my most recent focus of research is climate mobility. So I basically ask, how does climate change and mobility interact? What do human rights have to say about it? And what do international courts have to say in that context? So the Inter-American Court of Human Rights issued in summer of 2025 a really important and groundbreaking advisory opinion with over 200 pages in length. And with regards to climate mobility, it took a really interesting approach already in its proceeding stage, which then really reflected what the court said in its findings. So what the court did is that it really made sure that those who are affected by climate change, who are forced to move due to climate change, really get a voice in the proceedings. So the court that is usually situated in San Jose, Costa Rica, moved to the people. It held proceedings in Barbados to be closer to those affected in the Caribbean states, and then also in Brazil. And it really invited a wide range of actors to its hearings because the judges really wanted to hear not only experts on climate mobility, for example, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the International Organization for Migration, civil society, academics, but they really also invited those who suffer from climate change on a daily basis. These are indigenous communities or also small communities across the Americas. And one prominent example was a small village, a fishing village, which is called El Bosque in Tabasco, Mexico, which basically disappeared due to climate change as land erosion and rising sea level slowly ate away the village. And these people were invited to the proceedings and spoke to the judges about their lived experiences affected by climate change. And this specific case, for example, also made it then in the outcome of the advisory opinion. So we really see how these stories of those affected really made it into the court's opinion. So we really see that the judges took a human-centered approach. They did a holistic assessment. They talked about climate mobility not only in the context of forced displacement, but they really showed how climate change affects mobility in many, many ways, directly, indirectly, but also it addressed a really important topic that is called trapped population in the climate context. So people who, due to climate change, need to move, like the community of El Bosque, but who cannot move because of social reasons, for economic reasons. So we could really see that the court took all of this into consideration. So it was really a holistic, human-centered approach that also took the different vulnerabilities of those affected by climate change into consideration. And with that, it really made a big difference in how climate change is seen and how climate mobility is seen now on the global landscape. So interestingly, we are now only a couple of months in after the advisory opinion by the Inter-American Court on the climate emergency, but we already see some impact within the Americas, but even globally. So within the Americas, we see some sort of downstream effect already, meaning that we see, for example, in Brazil, there were litigants who already picked up on the advisory opinion to bring cases to domestic courts. So we really see that the decision is already being used on the domestic level to bring forward the rights of those affected by climate change and to make sure that states follow their obligations based on what the judges found in the advisory opinion. Besides this downstream effect, we also see that in other contexts, the advisory opinion has already been cited and referred to. For example, just 1 month after the court issued this really important advisory opinion, the International Court of Justice also issued an advisory opinion on the nexus between climate change and human rights. And there it referred to this really important advisory opinion and stated that this is really a core piece of legislation that now needs to be considered uh, in the context of climate change. Besides that, we also see other courts picking up already on this advisory opinion. So even the European Court of Human Rights just recently in its Greenpeace versus Norway decision referred specifically to the advisory opinion by the Inter-American Court, which is something that the European Court does not often do. So this is really a big step that now the European Court refers to its sister court. It really shows that in a topic, such a global topic like climate change and human rights, courts seemingly now really draw on each other's finding. Besides that, also the UN Human Rights Council issued a resolution in October and referred to the findings. And also just last month at the COP30 in Belém, Brazil, we saw over 30 UN experts, special rapporteurs, working group experts coming together and issuing an opening statement where they really showed how climate mobility is really a global phenomenon. And they referred also to this key advisory opinion by the Inter-American Court as really a guide for anything and everything that is related to this topic. So we can really see that already within a couple of months, the impact of this advisory opinion within the Americas and across. And now it's really up to the legislators, to the judges on the domestic level to make it a reality and implement it even further.